Tonight on Reporting Scotland, senior UKIP activists call for the Scottish leader David Coburn to be replaced, complaining of dysfunctional management and major public gaffes. Welcomed to their new temporary classrooms, almost all of the displaced Edinburgh pupils go back to school. We're in Falkirk as politicians on the campaign trail discuss the closure of the Karen Phoenix factory. The left-wing pro-independence alliance Rise launched their Holyrood manifesto with a call for another referendum within 5 years. And we return to Largs with the duo Gallagher and Lyle, whose songs will be featured in a new stage musical there. Good evening. A group of senior UK Independence Party activists are calling for their leader in Scotland, David Coburn, to be replaced. In a letter to party bosses seen by Reporting Scotland, the group warns that unless a new spokesman is appointed, their Holyrood election campaign will be damaged and the EU referendum could be lost. Here's our political correspondent, Glenn Campbell.
A united front in Edinburgh on the day UKIP published its Holyrood manifesto. But the smiles mask deep divisions inside this party.
At the end of February, 10 key activists in UKIP Scotland, including 5 local party chairmen, wrote to party bosses in London complaining about dysfunctional management of UKIP Scotland and calling for the leadership team to be cleared out. Without action, they said UKIP's Holyrood election campaign would be seriously impaired and its efforts in the EU referendum campaign would be jeopardised.
Waiting to grasp the opportunity to shake up Holyrood.
UKIP's regional organiser in Scotland is Kevin Newton. The letter says he's failed and should be replaced. UKIP Scotland's chairman, Arthur Misty Thackeray, stood down after being charged with making indecent phone calls. The letter says he should be neither seen nor heard until the court case is resolved.
If you want some trouble caused on your behalf, I'm the man that'll do it.
Euro MP David Coburn is UKIP's leader in Scotland. The letter says he is not suited to being the Scottish face of the Brexit campaign and should be replaced as lead spokesperson. This former UKIP activist in Glasgow agrees that change is needed at the top.
The party's run completely autocratic and it's a pure dictatorship, so there will be no actual change in Scotland unless those at the top who brand themselves the top brass are actually fully removed.
Jobs is the thing we require, and we won't do that.
Despite the criticism, David Coburn continues to make UKIP's case in Scotland. No action appears to have been taken by UK party bosses.
I've got every confidence in David. He's colourful, he's larger than life. He just occasionally says things that perhaps he might regret later. When you're a very small party with no prospect of getting elected to anything, things jog along fairly happily. Once you rise in the polls and people can see there's the prospect of getting elected into Holyrood, then all sorts of rivalries come into play.
Hello, can I give you
Mr Farage is expected to join David Coburn on the Scottish campaign trail tomorrow. But while UKIP's fighting an election and a referendum, party members in Scotland are also fighting amongst themselves.
Well, let's go to Glenn now, who's in Holyrood. Glenn, damaging for David Coburn in the midst of an election campaign. What do you think will be the impact of this?
Well, it's often said that divided parties don't win, so this is damaging for UKIP at a time when they're fighting for seats here at Holyrood in a campaign that should give them their best chance of a breakthrough here, because the backdrop for that campaign is the bigger debate about the UK's membership of the European Union, whether we should be in or out. And to achieve an outvote is the reason that UKIP exists. And in the Scottish context, they have a unique position. Of the 6 parties with elected parliamentarians in Scotland, theirs is the only one that is advocating a leave vote. Despite all of that, questions for Nigel Farage and David Coburn as they campaign in Inverness tomorrow will inevitably be dominated about the divisions that this letter reveals within the party, the doubts that exist about the leadership of David Coburn. There has been a big bout of infighting in UKIP Scotland Scotland before. In fact, it led to the party being put into special measures by the UK leadership, and it's never really come out of that position, which has fueled some of the frustration that is felt by ordinary activists who feel their voices aren't heard and that this party has turned into something of a dictatorship.
Thank you very much, Glenn. The majority of Edinburgh schools closed amid building safety fears have resumed teaching, though many at alternative locations. Buses have been transporting thousands of children and their teachers across the city to temporary classrooms. The final 600 affected pupils restart tomorrow, as Maura Kinneborough reports.
An anxious first day of term. The delayed restart for 17 schools with structural defects is a huge logistical exercise. Thousands of children sent to different classrooms around Edinburgh, some many miles away. Their own school buildings are too dangerous to open.
It's been really good actually.
Why?
Because it's been more longer and we got more fun. It feels awkward being busted all over the city, but I'm glad we've been off for a few weeks.
It takes time to transport so many children at rush hour, time which should be spent learning.
It might have been fun for the children, but an extra week's Easter holiday has meant extra childcare costs and more time off work for many families. And now there are fresh concerns how all this disruption will affect their children's education.
To be honest, I'm most scared today about them going on coaches and stuff like that. I'm not comfortable with it at all.
It's kind of a pain, but I'd rather that they're safe than being put in harm's way.
Their education is going to be spoiled because they have to travel another 1 hour.
Warm welcomes from many host schools, but S1, 2 and 3 from Craigmount High had yet another day off. They restart tomorrow.
At first it seemed like the impossible task. The wing where Castleview are in was full of rubbish. It was unclean, it didn't look like classrooms at all, but thanks to all the staff, it's actually been transformed now into a lovely school.
Thinking about our transition into high school anyway.
The school buildings affected are owned and managed by Edinburgh Schools Partnership. Yet again there's been no update, no statement and no interviews from them. The council's left to cope with the crisis.
We've had to put these operations in place, but there's no doubt about it, it's not a perfect situation. It clearly is disruptive, and we're trying to minimise the disruption as far as we possibly can.
Some schools are split over several locations, their teaching team fragmented, siblings separated and parents worried there's still no word when this major displacement of children will end. Maura Kinneborough reporting, Scotland, Edinburgh.
A retired Catholic priest has appeared in court charged with sex offences against 3 boys. 80-year-old Father Paul Moore, who lives in Largs, was charged at Kilmarnock Sheriff Court with lewd, indecent and libidinous practices and behaviour. He made no plea or declaration and was granted bail. The trial of 2 women accused of killing 2-year-old Liam Fee, who was found dead at a house in Glenrothes, has heard a young boy say he made up a story about strangling Liam on the night he died. In a recorded interview, the child said he'd put his hand over the toddler's mouth earlier in the week, but said that he was speaking afterwards. Liam's mother, Rachel Fee, and her partner, Naomi Fee, deny murdering Liam and blaming his death on another child. The trial at the High Court in Livingston continues. People in Falkirk have been coming to terms with the news that one of their most enduring employers is shutting. The closure of Falkirk sink manufacturer Karen Phoenix is also occupying political minds at the Scottish TUC in Dundee. More on that in a moment, but first Aileen Clark reports on the mood in Falkirk.
The day shift leaving Karen Phoenix in Falkirk this afternoon, 24 hours on from hearing the site will close by the end of next year.
Can I ask you what the mood was like in the plant today?
It wasn't very good at all. Not at all.
What are people making of it?
Well, as you can expect, people are quite, they're quite sad.
Falkirk town centre, just a couple of miles from the Karen works. The busker was doing his best to play a happy tune, but that was the only cheer in a high street looking for retailers and a town sad to lose so many skilled, well-established jobs.
I should imagine most of everybody in Falkirk's had some sort of connection to Karen.
There's enough, redundancies and unemployment, etc. in the town at the moment as it is. So, yeah, I think quite devastating for a lot of families involved.
The steeple in Falkirk is being renovated as part of a drive to reinvigorate the high street, and the council will also be involved in efforts to try to get the Karen workforce re-employed.
Just recently we've seen the effect of the Longannet closure, and that's affecting companies round about us here in Falkirk. So Falkirk's economy has faced a number of upheavals in recent years, and we're still working on that. What we do want to do is make sure that we can be as positive as possible in the circumstances.
The council point to the successful bus company Alexander Dennis just down the road as evidence there is life left in manufacturing here. But Frank, who own the Karen Works, say upgrading in Falkirk was not viable. Production is being moved to Slovakia.
This plant does have a long and very proud history. But one worker said to me here today that he believed it was a lack of investment in recent years which has led to this decision to close it. And that's a very bitter blow for the staff here. Aileen Clark, reporting Scotland, Falkirk.
Well, political leaders have promised to do all they can to help the Karen Phoenix workers. The issue was raised at the Scottish TUC conference in Dundee. So let's go there and join our political editor, Brian Taylor. Brian, what are the politicians saying?
Jackie, it was Nicola Sturgeon's turn to address the Scottish TUC delegates in the Caird Hall behind me here. Her theme, well, among other points, it was her willingness to intervene in industry in an effort to protect jobs where that is possible. It turned out to be grimly appropriate.
What can politicians do in the face of factory closures and job losses? Nicola Sturgeon recalled that her government had intervened to help Ferguson shipyard on the Clyde and to protect Lanarkshire steel jobs.
We found a buyer for those steel plants, and today...
And so, when she met workers from Karen Phoenix here in Dundee, she promised to do all she could, while stressing that it would be vital first to gather the facts.
We will do everything possible to secure those jobs, and that's the commitment I've given to the workers and the trade unions. We made a similar commitment with the steel plants and have been able to secure a future for them. You know, at this stage, I'm not going to tell somebody that I can deliver what I don't know yet that I can deliver, but I will promise to, as we did in steel, leave no stone unturned.
Gives a bit of hope. Obviously she can't assure us in any way that there is going to be an outcome this way or that way, but she says she will do everything, and it's good that she's on her side.
And of course, Brian, we are in the middle of the Holyrood election campaign. Presumably all the parties have voiced their readiness to assist.
And they have, of course, the parties each seeking to project their policies to pursue their election campaign, but primarily today, I think, in their comments, concern and anxiety and sympathy for those in Scotland who are facing job losses.
This is a very worrying time for people in Aberdeen and Falkirk and elsewhere across the Scotland where we're losing jobs. We have to redouble our efforts to help those people who've just fallen out of work by helping them access the skills and the agencies that they need to return to work. But over the longer term, we've got to make sure that we have government support available for people to reskill all the time.
I think the economy in Scotland needs a robust intervention strategy to make sure we're supporting vital industries in Scotland. But we also need to make sure we've got a skilled workforce, and that's what we've got at the Karen Works. Some excellent workers there, and we need to support them to make sure they've got continued employment. We also need to invest in reskilling, retraining. Education is at the heart of this.
We need to get all of our government agencies working together on the ground, make sure that they're in there helping, seeing if there's ways in which we can take this forward, whether that's a potential new buyer, whether that's a PACE team to help with the workforce themselves. But we also need to have a regime in Scotland, a business regime that supports the companies that are here.
And of course, the Scottish TUC here at the Caird Hall evincing their sympathy for the Falkirk workers and pleading for support to help them in that regard. In terms of the election, the focus tomorrow moving on to the SNP manifesto, and I'm certain that jobs and the economy will be centre stage for that as well.
Thank you, Brian. Well, staying with politics, the left-wing alliance RISE has unveiled its manifesto for the Holyrood election, calling for the Scottish Parliament to have the power to call an independence referendum in the next 5 years. They've also detailed their plans on how they would end austerity and tax the rich. Our political correspondent Andrew Kerr was at the launch in Glasgow.
All change on the left, a new alliance of socialists. RISE grew up out of the referendum campaign, the 4 letters spelling out what they think is a radical prospectus. In the manifesto, beginning with R, they demand respect and a living income for unpaid carers. I for independence. They want Holyrood to have the power to call a second referendum in the next 5 years. S is for socialism, a clear plan for the richest to pay higher taxes and a scrapping of the council tax for an income-based tax. And E for environmentalism. They want free public transport. So, a movement turned into a party. How professional is it? They get the referendum date wrong in the manifesto introduction, mix up percent with pence, and get the threshold wrong for the 40p tax rate. Small details, the party says. Look at the bigger picture.
Well, Rise is offering an alternative, a manifesto that nobody else is offering. You know, we're talking about a £10 an hour living wage to eradicate poverty wages, talking about 100,000 new council houses, affordable housing, talking about a second referendum on independence, primarily because that's the big issue in this election. That's the big issue in Scottish politics, unfinished business.
Colin Fox was a socialist MSP. The left in Scotland has been riven by splits. Jean Urquhart is another candidate with a party past, quitting the SNP when it ended its opposition to NATO. But some SNP supporters say Rise risks splitting the pro-independence vote.
But there was never ever going to be one route to independence. And I don't believe that it left to one political party that will ever get there. And I think the SNP probably realise that too.
The independence referendum fundamentally changed the political landscape. Now this party are hoping voters will rise up to the prospect of a socialist Scotland. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Well, let's get the sports news now from Rhoda.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello there, good evening to you. The Hibernian head coach Alan Stubbs says goalkeeper Mark Oxley will start in goals for their championship match against Rangers despite the Scottish Cup semi-final heroics of stand-in Conrad Logan. Tomorrow's meeting is a dress rehearsal for the Cup final, but there are plenty of Hibs games coming up before that, especially if they finish third or fourth in the league, as Brian McLaughlin reports.
Here he goes.
A dramatic ending to a dramatic game, and since then, well, the Hibs players have been recuperating here at their East Lothian training base. But it's going to be a hectic schedule coming up for Alan Stubbs and his players.
The Easter Road side still have 4 league matches to be played, and then the playoffs begin. If successful, a double-header in the playoff final, as well as a return to Hampden. A total of 11 games in 36 days.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of games, but success is one thing that everybody strives for in football, player and managers. And when you've got something that is so close in front of you, tiredness doesn't become an issue.
As for the players on the park, they're relishing the heavy schedule.
We have to be. There's no, are you ready? You know, we have to be. It's that stage of the season now where we've got to be ready for everything that comes our way, and the games will come thick and fast. But you know, we'll prepare right, and you know, we'll put everything out on the pitch.
Despite a man of the match performance on Saturday, Conrad Logan has been told regular keeper Mark Oxley will be back in goal for tomorrow night's game against Rangers. A decision made by Stubbs.
He's been good all season. Conrad's come in and done excellent in the game that he's come in, and he needs to keep doing what he's done and keep putting Mark under pressure now.
Celebrations at the weekend, a lot of football still to be played before the return to Hampden in May.
Well, after their defeat by Hibs in that Scottish Cup semi-final, Dundee United have 5 matches to save themselves in the Premiership. They resume their fight for survival at the weekend when they play Hamilton. United are bottom of the table, 8 points adrift of their nearest rivals.
Is it a big task? It's huge, because let's be honest, we've won 6 games for 33. We now need to win 5 from 5. Let's not make any bones about it. That's the scenario we find ourselves in, and one that we're determined to be able to do.
Now, one of Celtic's all-time greats, Paul McStay, says he doesn't feel sorry for under-pressure manager Ronny Deila because he's had the chance to manage one of the biggest clubs in Europe. McStay, who was promoting his autobiography, says any decision on Deila's future should not be made public till the end of the season.
a massive organisation like Celtic, they will probably have a look at what's going on there now and to see if they can get things in place to make sure that there's a strong challenge in Europe next year, I think, if the league is won, but also from the point of view of domestically what can be done there to strengthen the club and the squad's position as well.
Well, Queen of the South and their manager James Fowler have agreed to part company. The former Kilmarnock defender leaves with the club sitting 7th in the Championship. Fowler replaced Jim McIntyre a year and a half ago and led the club to 4th place in his first season. Assistant Gavin Skelton and coach Jim Thompson take charge for the 2 remaining league matches of the season. John Higgins is safely through to the 2nd round of the World Snooker Championship at the Crucible. The 4-time winner enjoyed a comfortable win of 10 frames to 3 against the qualifier Ryan Day of Wales. Higgins will play England's Ricky Walden in the 2nd round. The 40-year-old Scot has not gone past the 2nd round at the Crucible since last winning the trophy 5 years ago. And Scott Brash from Peebles has found a return to form in his preparations for the Rio Olympic Games. Brash beat an impressive international field to win the Massimo Dutti Trophy in Mexico City. He was riding Hello Forever. The former #1 had dropped to 3 in the world rankings. The victory was timely as he builds towards the Rio Games, and it won him 3 million pesos or €155,000. All in a day's work.
That's very nice for him. Thank you very much, Rhoda. Now, the Scots singing duo Gallagher and Lyle will be honoured this week with a new staged musical in the town where they grew up. Caledonia, USA takes its title from a song they wrote especially for the show. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean went to meet them.
They worked with the Beatles and wrote some of the biggest hits of the 1970s. But Benny Gallagher and Graham Lyle never forgot the town where it all began. Now the people of Largs are returning the favour with a new musical based on the duo's extensive back catalogue.
I grew up listening to these songs. My brother used to manage Graham and Benny, and when I was a drama student in the 70s, my graduation project was that I wrote a play with their songs as incidental music, and here I am, 40 years later, back at the same songs involved in the musical.
Caledonia, USA. There's even a new song written especially for the show and its performers.
I'd heard them, but I actually hadn't heard much of their songs at all, so when I heard about the musical, I just started listening to the songs, and I listen to them literally every day now.
Yeah,
I love the music.
We've fallen in love with the music through the show.
And for Gallagher and Lyle, that love of Largs has never left them.
Some of the songs that we wrote in London, in retrospect, I don't think we realised at the time, but they're very influenced by this upbringing here in this town, and it's great to see it still coming there. You know, we're still getting these very emotional sweeps, you know, when you see the kids doing it and that enthusiasm. Wonderful.
It's not a daft dream. We were told get a real job, you know, and luckily we held on long enough until Paul McCartney signed us, you know, and that was really the issue that saved us from miserable failure.
But only with you. The show opens tomorrow, but like its most famous sons, the hope is it will travel the world. Pauline McLean reporting Scotland, Largs.
I know where we stand.
Well, now here's Shelley with details of tonight's Scotland 2016.
Tonight here at Pacific Quay in Glasgow, an audience of voters will get the chance to question politicians about their policies on energy and the environment. So please do join us tonight at 10:30 on BBC Two Scotland.
Let's get the weather environment now from Christopher.
Jackie, thank you very much indeed. Hello there. Well, some lovely spring sunshine for many of us today. Blue skies, not all. It was a bit cloudy in the northwest, but picture-perfect scene there from one of our weather watchers in Dumfriesshire. Tonight, those clear skies mean it's largely dry, but also chilly. Now, you'll notice some thicker cloud across the Highlands and Islands. A bit of a breeze here from the southwest and a few spots of light rain, 1 or 2 showers. But to the south and east of the Great Glen, it's dry, largely clear and quite chilly. Temperatures there in towns and cities, but a few inland parts of Aberdeenshire could well be down close to freezing, if not lower. High pressure, though, still with us tomorrow, so another largely dry and settled day. However, one or two weather fronts in the northwest bringing some thicker cloud and a few spots of light rain, one or two showers. That cloud just slowly drifting in towards parts of Murray and Aberdeenshire, Highland, Perthshire. Elsewhere dry and bright through the morning, the cloud also slowly building through the course of the afternoon. The prolonged sunshine likely along the Solway coast, around the Ayrshire coastline as well, but inland it's dry and bright but slowly clouding over. Pleasant though, 14 degrees with light winds, really quite nice. Further north, a bit more in the way of cloud, and again that cloud with one or two showers across the Highlands and Islands, although you'll notice there just about some brighter moments coming through as we head through the course of the afternoon. Rest of the afternoon into the evening and overnight, staying largely dry, that cloud melting away. Clear skies once again overnight. Then for Thursday, the high pressure just about holding on but actually retreating west out to the Atlantic, so a sign of change afoot. However, for most on Thursday, another largely dry and settled day. A sunny start in the south, a cloudy start in the north, and then a role reversal. So brightening up in the north later on through the afternoon, clouding over in the south, cooler in the north, up to 15 degrees in the south. Doesn't last though. Look at the chart there for the end of the week and into the weekend, cold northerly winds, so a real change in type. You'll notice we'll start to see that colder air on Friday, 7-8 Celsius in the north, still just about double digits in the south, but the cold air with us for the weekend. Jackie.
Thank you very much, Christopher. And now a reminder of tonight's top story. A group of senior UKIP activists is calling for the Scottish leader David Coburn to be replaced, complaining of dysfunctional management and major public gaffes. Mr Coburn has declined a formal interview with the BBC on the issue, but dismisses the criticism as nonsense. That's it from us. Good evening.